Hi, everyone. Welcome. That original music was by Spencer Cohen, and it was just meant to, in a crazy con, help us all relax. So thank you for coming. I'm Danielle Beckmann. You have made it to Women in Entertainment, How to Blaze Your Own Path. Okay, now we can get excited. Awesome. Thank you so much. So this is our second annual Women in Entertainment conversation. And just a little bit about me so you can know a little bit about who I am. I was a theater performer. I am now a filmmaker. I am an actor, producer. I'm a Tribeca Film Festival alumni. I'm based in Los Angeles, and my production company is called Brooklyn Quarter. You'll see us up there. Scan the QR code if you want to say hi. We're really all about creating community, empathy, and understanding within the entertainment industry and beyond. So I have invited such amazing, empathetic, wonderful humans on this panel today. We have this remarkable group here, and we're going to hear from them in a second. They're going to share some stories, I'm hoping, some learnings, some ups and downs, just outlooks on the entertainment industry, and I think life, probably. Yeah, I feel like they're the same in my experience. But my hope is that you each leave here today feeling inspired and ready to blaze your own path in whatever that might be. And before we get started, I just wanted to shout out two things. Sorry, I'm just going to talk for a little bit here and then we'll get to talk. I am so sad to report that we did have Avery Huffine on the panel, but she got pneumonia in July. And I know, it's kind of not fun. And so she had to step out. We wish her a speedy recovery. But before, I go on, she wanted me to make a little announcement for any filmmakers out there. So specifically, I'll read this from her. She said, if you're a Pacific Islander looking to break into entertainment, Avery is the founding member of Pacifica Peak Entertainment Advancements Committee. It's called Peak. You can follow them on Instagram. They're an organization looking to redefine and expand Pacifica roles and voices, as well as create community within the entertainment industry. And they just announced a writer fellowship with Netflix.
Woo, nice.
So yes, tell your emerging Pacifica filmmaker friends. They're launching a producer fellowship later this year. So you can reach out to them on Instagram, talk to Avery directly. It's at Peak Pacifica with a K on Instagram. And the last thing I just really quickly wanted to say is that the SAG-AFTRA video game strike just started yesterday. And we stand in solidarity with them, and I'm a SAG-AFTRA member, and you'll hear from many people on this panel who are as well, and union members. And if you would like, I spoke to one of the strike captains. She's a Chapman alum with Ashley and I. Her name is Andy Norris. And if you're interested in learning more about that, it's sagaftra.org/video game strike. And you know what? Last year, this time, there was another strike. Very interesting. So, let's just keep up the good fight there. So anyway, I'm ready to introduce everyone. And I'm just going to go down the line and we can give beautiful, uproarious applause for each. Okay, so I'm going to start right here. So she is an award-winning director, writer, producer, singer, actress. She is the co-creator and executive producer of Quantum Leap and the creator as well of the new sci-fi graphic novel Warrior One. And in it, as seen here, we have to bring props. This is the props panel. She is also, in addition to many of her achievements in film and television, she's a published novelist with 7 books, a playwright, a pioneer in transmedia-based franchise entertainment, and an international speaker. She served on the board of the board of directors of the WGA, the Writers Guild, and she's on multiple committees on the DGA and a member of the PGA and SAG-AFTRA mentioned before. It's Deborah M. Pratt. Awesome. Next up, we have this next woman who has spent the majority of the last 6 years helping tiny chefs not so tiny dreams come true. Her experience in film, stop motion animation, and commitment to humor has been the perfect recipe to help Tiny Chef, who is also joining us with his on-screen performances. And before she met Tiny Chef, Rachel worked on many incredible things you may have known, like Coraline, Isle of Dogs, Tumbleleaf, how do you say that one? Paranorman. I needed punctuation for that one. I can't wait to watch. See, then I'd know. But with so many amazing, talented people, I love that you shout that out here. Many of them now help with Tiny Chef and making his life great. And besides that, she enjoys reminiscing about the hobbies she used to enjoy before Tiny Chef. It's Rachel Larsen. I relate so much. It's wild. Okay, next up, she is a creative executive in production and development at Lionsgate Motion Picture Group, where she supports the cultivation of films that resonate with global audiences, including many tentpole franchises like John Wick, for example. Just one to name a few. Prior to Lionsgate, she got her MFA in producing at the prestigious AFI, the American Film Institute Conservatory. Woo. And she also is actually, this is cool, a social media content creator and was named one of Macro's top 10 100 Black TikTok creatives of 2020. It is Erin Jones-Wesley. Okay, up next we have actor, writer, producer, founder of Bagel Pictures. She recently shared the screen with Lindsay Lohan for Pure Leaf Tea. Please look for that. She executive produced, co-wrote, and starred in the award-winning short film The Fuscos, and she is financing for her drag-inspired feature comedy, No Rules, which is in the top 5% of all 120,000 feature film scripts on Coverfly, placing in 9 festivals, securing 12 laurels. She is a proud SAG-AFTRA member and a queer storyteller. It's Ashley Gianni. And coming round to my dear friend on the end, she's a creative content producer for shows such as Apple TV's Masters of the Air, Amazon's Mr. and Mrs. Smith. She's created a variety of award-winning content for Amazon Prime Video. They're keeping you busy this con, aren't they? Apple TV Plus, HBO Max, Netflix, Showtime, Epix. Her foray into the narrative directing world, which is the short film The Fuscos, as you heard previously, we'll talk about that, premiered at Outfilm Connecticut LGBTQ Film Festival in June, and it's already winning awards. Wow, it's Jennie Girardo. Thank you all for being here.
Thank you for having us.
Oh, you're welcome. Yeah, you don't have to be quiet. We can
talk. That's what we're here to do, right?
That's right. So the title of this panel is How to Blaze Your Own Path. And so if you're gonna blaze something, it's gonna start with a spark, something small. And so I would love to just go down the line and ask, what was the spark for each of you? Mm-hmm. And when I say that, I mean, feel free to get specific, like the exact moment in the creative field that you're in that caused you not only to blaze that path, but persevere down it as well. So we can start with Deborah if you'd like.
We can. Hi, everyone. Thank you so very much for coming. I don't know, I guess I had a couple of sparks in my life very early. I came out at 6 and loved the weather and said, I got to live here. Tried to talk my parents into leaving me. But then I discovered that I had something to say. And I was trying to figure out how to say it, and I was lucky enough to get brought out here on a nationwide talent search that gave me a job at NBC. And from there, I went into the music industry, and from there, I decided to act. And I noticed the roles for women, especially women of color, were far and few between. And so I made a promise to myself that every show that I was on, I was going to write a script for it. So I got on Airwolf, and I wrote a script for it. And that first time I had to rewrite it like 7 times, because I was the star of it, of course. But I got to shoot it. I got to see the process. I got on Magnum, I wrote 2 scripts. And then somebody said, you want to be a producer? And I had all these ideas in my head, and I realized very early on how many people you could communicate with in an hour on national television. And when I brought Quantum Leap to the producers, first they said, don't take your credit, and we'll teach you how to be a producer. I regret not taking that credit, but everybody that worked on the show knew it was mine. I headed the writer room. And I got to tell stories that brought the world together. I still talk to people to this day that I walk into big meetings and people say, wow, I just want to geek out for a second. I used to watch your show with my mom and my dad and my grandfather and my brother. We never missed an episode, and they knew them by heart. And then even after the first show went off the air, I got letters from people who said, when my parents were divorcing and I was 10, I found your show playing because it never went off the air. And I kept hoping that Sam Beckett would leap into my father or my mother and make things right. And so the ability to reach out and touch people really made me understand that I wanted to create stories that gave hope and lifted people and made the world a little bit better. And I think that now we have that opportunity more than ever to bring equity.
It's beautiful. Absolutely. Yes, absolutely.
Thank you.
I was a huge Quantum Leap fan. I love that show.
Yes.
I was one of those people. I was like, thank you. I think, so I had a few moments, that kind of clicked. But I guess like one of the major ones, it's kind of a negative moment, but it like really like clicked in my head. I was working in London on Isle of Dogs, and it was like all of these dreams had come true. Like I had become a stop motion animator. I was like kind of at the peak of my career. I was like working overseas in London with Wes Anderson. I was like, I've arrived, like it was like, I knew it was like, how do you top this? It was such a peak experience, and it, working on that movie, it was really his vision, like he wanted the puppets to do a certain thing, and I wasn't really there for my voice. It was there to like execute the puppets how he wanted, which was his right. But I was like, I can't do this. Like, I just felt like I really wanted to express my own voice and my own like humor. And I knew that there was something else in me that I wanted to kind of get out into the world, and kind of executing other people's visions it had run its course for me. And I needed to put my own voice out into the world. And it was just a very like, defining moment. Like I knew if I kept working on other people's visions, I would get fired because I just wasn't like, I wanted to do it myself. And so about a year later, I started making tiny food and just trying to figure out what I wanted to do. And this little guy he had sculpted him like 12 years ago, and it just sort of kept coming with me. I made a puppet out of him, but he didn't have a place in the world yet. And my friend Ozzy was making cooking videos, and she was like, let's put all these ideas together. Like, let's use your green puppet and, make a tiny cooking show. And it just felt like, oh, this is a good idea. And so we just started making videos. We just started doing it. And so there's a couple moments, but that one was the really defining. I just remember being like, I have to do it. Like, I have to know what I would do in the world, and not just work on other people's visions.
And I love that it felt right when you had that merging of the cooking concept and the puppet for you.
Yeah.
And when that thing is in flow, to listen to that.
Yeah, everything came from a place of not I don't know, just what we were wanting to do instead of this idea. There was no end goal. We were just let's just create and see what comes back. And it was very organic, and we love it to this day, and it just started from a really honest and truthful place. So
and that says so much that you're still working on it, and it energizes you and you love it.
Yeah, I love him. Yeah.
I mean, hello. The world loves him.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Thank you, Rachel. Erin, what about you?
I think that a spark to me is when you rub two rocks together and that friction creates something, right? And so I feel like the moment of friction for me came from spending most of my life in adolescence and into my college years being a Division I softball player and being at the peak of that career. I played professionally. I got into the Hall of Fame. I really felt like I had the opportunity to fully see that vision of myself through, but then you get to a place where, now what? And so in the friction of feeling what do I do now? I had to pivot. And so I think the spark came from the pivot. That was the friction of turning things around. And so and I don't know how many people are familiar with baseball and softball, but so much of that culture is storytelling. And so you are waiting for a coach to hit fly balls and you're out in the field and people are telling stories. You're sitting in a dugout, people are telling stories. And so I'd really had the opportunity, even though I didn't understand what I would do with that skill, of what it takes to tell a good story and how much a good story can help people create empathy with one another. So meeting a mentor of mine who was able to kind of help me in that moment of, I don't know what life is without doing sports, but I don't think I want to stay here. And being able to say, well, you've been producing events in the nonprofit space. You've been putting together content. You've been telling stories. And you have this ability to tell stories in a way where you can connect with people. And what if I told you there was a job that existed where you can work with people who want to tell stories and you can help them tell their story and you can listen and help them make it? What if I told you that was a job? And there's really great women who've done that job. Go home, go research Sherry Lansing, go research Donna Langley, go research Kathleen Kennedy. Come back to me, kid, and tell me what you think of those women. And so I did, and I was like, they're really cool, and how do I do that? Because I've been throwing softballs over here. And so the answer to that was to study and to start all over. And so to go from being in a place where I was very sure of myself and knew exactly what I was doing when I was throwing a softball and making something happen and telling that story of myself, and switching to how do I help other people tell their stories and shape them in a way where it can resonate with people, which led to being at a studio and being a studio executive where I get to work with lots of storytellers and hear their stories and help make that story resonate with a global audience, which I honestly is a dream job and really exciting. So I think for me, really feeling that friction and not running away from the friction of our lives and seeing where that can take you, and where that took me is, I think, exactly where my spark came from.
I love that. And to use, maybe there will be a couple baseball, analogies peppered in, but I want to say you recently hit a home run with a project. Do you want to just quickly shout it out? That was just announced.
Well, yeah. So currently, the latest project that's in production right now is a Stephen King adaptation called The Long Walk. It was one of his first novels that got published under pseudonym Richard Bachman, but it's a dystopian thriller that a lot of people say inspired movies and books like The Hunger Games, and we have Francis Lawrence directing, who is the director of many of the Hunger Games movies, so it'll be really exciting, and we have a great cast, Mark Hamill, Judy Greer, we're stoked about it.
Yay.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Thanks, Danielle.
Okay, more baseball to come.
I can't help but to give a sports analogy. I'm sorry for everyone here.
I get it. We'll just, don't throw me a curveball. Okay. So, Ashley, tell us about your spark.
Well, legend has it that I was about 2 years old and I pointed to the television and I said, I want to be in there. And I don't remember that moment, but the moment I remember is I was very fortunate to grow up right outside of New York City with a mom who loves theater and instilled her love of theater in me. And so she took me to my first Broadway show when I was 5 years old. And when I saw Kathy Rigby fly over the audience in Peter Pan, I thought that was the most magical thing I have ever experienced. I could feel it in my bones to this day. And I just knew I wanted to be a part of that magic. And it was such a visceral experience. And so this is all I have ever known. I don't know anything else but storytelling. And that takes shape for me in a bunch of different ways as an actor, as a writer, as a filmmaker, as a wardrobe stylist. Storytelling language happens in all different kinds of mediums. And so as I then continued to pursue that spark, I really began to understand the importance of storytelling, that's how we connect as human beings. And one of the biggest moments for me was sitting down with my grandfather when he explained to me that his views on homosexuality changed after he saw Torch Song Trilogy on Broadway. From that one experience, a 2-hour Broadway show, he was so emotionally involved and was able to empathize with the characters in the story that he went, oh, this is us. There's no difference between me and the characters in these stories. We're just all looking for love. Wow. We're just all looking for acceptance and family. And to hear that from a grandparent, and to experience that, I went, wow, this is powerful. We can change people's hearts and mind, and the power of the collective empathy when we're sitting in an audience together, all sharing that experience, is a really powerful tool that we have as storytellers and artists. And that's what continues to fuel my spark.
2-year-old Ashley knew what was going on.
Oh yeah, she knew. I wish I remember that moment, but that's the legend. That's what I've been told.
Great, telling tall tales. I love it. And Jennie, what about you? Was there a moment or?
There was. It's so funny. I had written down a bunch of different spark stories, and I had written down a bunch of different spark stories, and it's interesting. I loved hearing that all of our sparks happened also at different moments in our lives, whether it was childhood or young adulthood or in the middle of our careers, right? So I kind of was exploring all those different ideas when I was thinking about this question. And for me, what was so interesting is I grew up, I was a visual artist, I was a singer, I played the piano, I was a cheerleader, I did all these different things. But ultimately, I planned to go to college to pursue music. I had studied opera at Rutgers when I was in Rutgers University in New Jersey, I should say, when I was in high school. And so I was kind of a shoo-in for their opera program. And I had an English teacher who was an NYU film school graduate, and he showed us Dead Poets Society in class. And I just was blown away by that storytelling. I was just like, wow, again, like the power of something that can just truly be that transformative that all of a sudden my whole life was on a new trajectory. And what I wanted to say, actually, Erin, you brought up a really interesting point, which is, sure, music, art, etc. certainly set me up for my career to become a director and producer. But the joke I love to make on set is, actually, cheerleading might have set me up more than anything else. Because when I gotta get a crew of 50 people to listen to me or be in a good mood or whatever, it make a difference. So I think that's actually an interesting thing to discuss today as well, which is it's amazing how the spark can come from such a different place than you expect it to. So yeah, cheerleaders, baseball players, softball players.
And shout out to teachers.
Yeah.
Yes. To our teachers. Shout out. Yeah. Right? Yeah.
Also, I've been on set with Jennie, and she doesn't need a megaphone. She just cheers with her hand.
It's true. It's true.
It's in there. It's the Italian American lungs.
We're Jersey girls,
Yes.
Love it.
Great. So this is fantastic. So as you can see, everyone here works in such vastly different corners of our industry. It's like we're covering so many things. And so, in our conversation, feel free to jump around and we'll just go for it. If you hear something that resonates, chime in. But I do want to start with this concept that Deborah, you brought up, which is this lack, or I don't know, maybe perceived lack of new and original IP that you brought up to me once, and you said also this shift from passive to active storytelling. And could you speak a little bit about that?
I think the most unique things that come to us as creators, the ideas that come to us as creators, the worlds that come to us, and they come from different places. They come from experiences. They come from dreams. I used to dream all the time, and I was a storyteller from a very young age, and I remember just saying, I had this dream last night, and in this dream, and usually they were big action-adventure stories, but I got whole movies in my head. So, and it was funny, I talked to some friends, and they said even as a young kid, you'd come out and you'd say, I had this dream. And at the 10 o'clock version was 10 minutes of talking. By 4 o'clock, you definitely had the whole thing worked out. And you come into town, and I know even when I had very original ideas very early, I couldn't get people to listen to me because I was a woman. And I watched, I did films, and I did the film festival, and I did television, and I won awards. But the reason that Quantum Leap got made was because a white male brought it into the studios. He brought me in with it to be able to tell the story, but I needed that buffer. I also took a workshop, a women's workshop at Fox, where they were going to teach women to direct $100 million movies. Now, Disney bought Fox in the middle of that, but I realized that only 5 women have done $100 million movies. And that I see all the time that a young man might win a festival, and they'll give him a $100 million movie to do. But a woman, they want to put you in class. They want to teach you. And that's the extent of what they want to do. And I think that has got to change. And the same thing with bringing in IPs that are unique. Stop being afraid of new ideas. There's so many unique ideas that are out there. But I think there's a laziness within our industry these days more than ever. There are no visionaries within our industry that can really see what viewers are wanting. The attitude that I've heard too many times was, I remember saying to 2 gentlemen who started HBO, and if you go back and you look at the early shows on HBO, they were very Black-centric.
Oh, yeah. Oz, one of my favorites.
And I said, why did you stop making those? And I don't know if they didn't recognize I was Black. I don't know what they did, but one of them went, oh, well, we realized they would watch anything we gave them. And I saw his partner kick him under the table. And it made me realize that somehow or another that spark for new voices was being muffled out. And I love the fact that there's all this new media that's out there that can get voices that would not normally be heard out and finding an audience. And again, I think there's equity in the sense that, you listen to George Lucas's story and how he got to hold on to the rights and the merchandising and the things that he got to. They will make sure to this day that never happens again unless we find another way to do it.
Yep. Oh, yeah.
An audience is the other way to do it. And I think that goes to the passive and active that you're talking about. I think there's a blending now of it's time for you to be in the movie. It's time for you to participate. Interactive storytelling is, I believe, the next evolution of where we're going in storytelling, because through a collective consciousness, we can change so much that's bad in the world to so much that's good.
Absolutely.
I absolutely love that. And the Rachel, this actually, there's something so interactive actually about your storytelling in this moment, with Tiny Chef being here in our presence. And I would love to ask you, you are a filmmaker that literally uses your hands to craft this image, right? And so how does that process inform your storytelling? And also, of course, if there's anything that resonated that you want to jump off of that Deborah shared as well, feel free.
Yeah, I mean, I felt really lucky that I had, enough skill sets that I could just do it. And Ozzy, the co-creator, we really split our skill sets down the middle. Like she can light a set, she can, she's DP, she does all the posts. So, and I can animate, and I could do the other half of the job. And I think I had watched a lot of Friends, good ideas, stay in development for years and not go anywhere and get canceled, and then they don't own it, and just had seen enough of that. I was like, no, I'm not gonna give this to someone else to note before it's even had a chance to be in front of an audience. So, we started around 2018, and Instagram was really like kind of peaking, it was like really popular, and I just looked at it as the storytelling platform, not a cute social media thing to then be something else. It was just as legit as any other medium. It was where people were watching. So we just treated it like this was the end platform. It wasn't to go do something else. This was the storytelling platform, and we didn't have to ask permission. We didn't need approvals, We also didn't have money, but like we like
yeah, but
we
you
had
so much creativity,
Yeah, we had a lot of drive and motivation, and we had a shed in New Zealand, so we made a set in the shed, and we just started filming, and it was a lot of work, but it was worth it, because by the time Nickelodeon wanted to partner with us, we had established him. So there was no question about his voice or his look, or, and it was worth it, and I think people are often scared, that something won't work. And I think when the thing that's probably going to work is if someone has a passionate voice and talent, and that doesn't get messed with too much,
know. And you have like your non-negotiables, like the bear, another chef, right? Oh, has anyone seen this latest episode? It's a point of contention. But yeah, you go in with your non-negotiables. Yeah. And I think that that's so important, and especially as women, to use our voice and knowing what those are flat out from the beginning. So, Ashley, you are that original IP, I think, that Deborah has been talking about. And, I would love for you to talk about that from your experience, especially with your feature in development right now, your indie feature, No Rules. And are there gaps where the industry could do better? Question mark.
And thank you for that question.
After Ashley,
that was going to be my answer.
Yes, anyone else can pop in after Ashley.
I was going to say, there is not a lack of original IP. There is a lack of funding
Original IP, right? And I think that is where our industry is lacking. New York Times just ran an article yesterday, 2 days ago, of like Barbie was supposed to change the industry. What happened, right? And
so was Wonder Woman.
Right, exactly. Yeah. And I just think we have been fed these lies from the studios. And please take into consideration, I am an independent filmmaker because I don't want someone telling me how to tell my story, right? And we have been fed this idea from studios and networks that female content can't sell, that content around people of color can't sell, that there aren't audiences, and that's absolutely absolutely false. The female audience makes up 51% of audience goers. We outweigh. When you're talking about LGBTQ audiences, we spend twice as much on the box office as a heterosexual audience. We are likely to go see a theatrical release twice in theaters. We're more likely to share on social media, to buy merchandise. Like, there is so much money with women and people of color and LGBTQ communities. We are starved of our stories, and we are ready and willing to be there. And so the issue isn't, I mean, go to any film festival, wherever you come from, go to your local film festival and go check out these phenomenal storytellers, because there is some really cool stuff happening and there are great voices out there. It's just a matter of the people with the pocketbooks giving us the resource and platform to tell those stories. And that's why I think social media is such a, like, what a great way to bypass that and go directly to our audiences. So yeah, there isn't a lack of original IP.
Yeah.
There's just a lack of.
Well, and
of
on
funding.
that, no, absolutely. And let's go to Erin for a second. So I guess on the other side of the coin, I guess, I'm like, let's see.
No,
what do
it's
you?
it's so interesting.
I would love, yes,
Yeah.
like, and also what are, I guess, in the marketplace as well, what are buyers looking for, and how does this connect?
Yeah, I mean, I think too, when it comes to original ideas, like a movie that had come out earlier this year that I'm so proud to have been a part of is a movie called Scrambled, which was a female-led movie, female-directed movie, female-written movie, and about a story that is so connected to so many women's journeys in their 30s. And like, I feel like there is something to be said about sometimes these larger IP or familiar franchises being able to be successful so that there can be bets made on these types of projects, right? And so there is kind of a balancing of the two, because as much as audiences will have maybe fatigue of sequels, people still show up because they want to see it, or they want to see the requel, or they want to more of a story that they already know, because the bar is very high for what it takes to make a theatrical movie for a lot of reasons, but mostly it's a lot to ask of an audience to pay $20 and maybe a babysitter and to drive and to leave their house to go to a movie, right? Like, I think there's when you have so much accessibility of content, whether it is on social media or it is on the scrolling on Twitter or TikTok or Instagram or YouTube, which most people are watching YouTube videos, or on Netflix, and then list all the streaming platforms. The ask to go pay for a movie ticket when you're already paying for a subscription, it's a very high ask. So that level of what it will take to make sure that people will go see that movie there's a lot there. So that's just to say in terms of the kind of what frames the idea. So then at that point, when we're saying, okay, well, what risk, what bet do we want to take? What do we think is worth someone saying, yes, let's get the babysitter, yes, let's pay and go see this movie? Typically, what people are showing up for in the last few years is stuff that has a little bit of spectacle in it. Or if it's not going to have a spectacle, something that they feel so compelled when they leave to tell a friend, you have to see that movie I just saw. There has to be an emotional resonance. Those characters need to be very strong. There needs to be a level of just such a compelling story that as soon as you walk out, you're like, oh my gosh, that shook me. I didn't realize I was going to see something that landed in that way. So I think that makes the bar just very high. And when we're reading material and we're trying to figure it out, there's a lot of levers, right? Because if you're asking someone who lives not on the coast and they're not following a lot of media, and you're like, it's this person in the movie. They're like, I don't know who that is, and I don't know if that's worth me paying $25 of a movie ticket for, right? So it's about adding all of the elements possible that could then ensure that the price of that project will at least break even, so that you can then make those smaller projects that people have that are more of those passion stories. And I think personally, I feel really lucky to be at more of like a mini major in a way where we actually do just have the opportunity to tell those types of stories, and we can take chances on original ideas because sometimes those do become the franchise starters. Like the first John Wick movie was not this huge big budget movie, but people just wanted more of that story. And so then it's something that, you know, we're really proud of to be able to take those chances.
We love that you're inside the studio for us.
I love being inside for that reason. Like
Yes.
I feel like it's a key part of being able to share with people who want to get their story told and say like, let me help you tell you what the inside scoop is and how we're looking at that to give people the best chance if they want that. Because not everyone even wants their movie to be out in that way.
Oh, no, absolutely. Which is why it's this thing when you have a project, especially like as a feature filmmaker myself about to go to my next thing, you weigh that option and say, you know, what do I want? And I think you let the project kind of tell you what it, you know, wants.
Yeah, the market will speak to what the best distribution platform is for a project, and you don't want to jeopardize your creativity or. Like, I feel like Rachel actually said something so great about like seeing Instagram as the end product and that it wasn't to do something different. You guys were like, we're going to take this very seriously. And I feel like that was such a smart idea because you were able to fully give it exactly what it deserved to tell the story exactly how it needed to be told, which is great.
Yeah, really clear path for sure. And Jennie, so you've talked about being a multi-hyphenate. And I think, you know, in the past, how maybe there's been a stigma around it, but how it's actually a good thing. And I think so many of us up here wear many different hats. But so I would love you to talk about, you know, specifically, I know that you, of course, are in branded content and on the commercial side, but in the indie world. And so how has your multifacetedness been in that transition into your directorial debut, et cetera?
Etc. I love this question so much. It's one of my favorite things to talk about just because, you know, I remember being both in film school and then graduating film school and just getting my foot in the door and having many people in charge tell me, pick a lane. Pick a lane, be very clear about what your path is, because if you don't know what your identity is, then people don't know where to put you. I agree with that last part, except for what if it's multiple lanes?
Right.
And, you know, Deborah, your career alone is proof of that, by the way. But I think it's actually my strength that I have produced, I've written, I've directed, I've been a production designer, I've done costumes, I've pretty much, and other things, sound mixing, which I got to work on that one. I think I've done pretty much. Right?
You did the music on our film, so that counts.
I did participate in some music in some of our score for our short. But I actually truly think that being a multi-hyphenate is not something to be shamed or looked down upon, but it makes you scrappy and ready to do virtually anything. And it's kind of funny. I feel like this is going to connect back to the social media of it all. I started my career at HBO about 15, 20 years ago, like just as social media was entering the marketplace. And people didn't know what to do about it. So they came to me and they're like, you're a kid. You know what this thing is that your people are, you know, you're doing. And it was fun because it was like being in film school at HBO, because I got to teach the older people I was working with, like, hey, this is how you shoot with a cell phone, and this is how you make mini tabletop stories and use it to reach younger audiences. And anyway, sorry, I can talk about that forever. But I guess to answer your question about how it was such a wonderful transition going from my day job working as a creative content producer and director into narrative film specifically, it's exactly what you're talking about, which is, you know, I had a vision in my mind about what the score was going to sound like, and specifically our hero music. Ashley and I had talked about even before the script was finished. Yeah. And seeing it executed at the end of the film, it basically is laid over our end scene and goes into our end credits, was so haunting and so perfect. And to be able to visualize that in my mind and for it to come out even better on screen was so rewarding. So I hope that answered.
Yeah, and it worked out. It really did. Yeah. Coming to a festival in Los Angeles soon.
Multiple.
Multiple. Hey.
Yeah.
What's the title?
It's called The Fuscos. Yes, it's about three Italian-American sisters, 1975.
Fun.
We'll let you see the rest. And surprise, Ashley and I play sisters in the film. So gosh, we could be up here for a few more hours. I'm going to throw out this question. It might be our last question. We might have a couple more, but I really know that we all have a heart for seeing diverse voices thriving in our industry. It's something across the board that you have all said, and it's crucial. It's crucial and necessary to our industry. And so, what steps can we all take in our industry to be more inclusive, and I would say stay more inclusive, specifically for all women, especially intersectionally, women of color, LGBTQ+, disabled, non-binary folks?
Yeah.
I'll let you at it.
Well, I think it comes to the people as a producer. I hire those people, right? It's providing jobs to women, people of color, my queer community, right? Hiring the people that we want. And then I think Deborah made a good point about the audience, not just in terms of interactive storytelling, but I think we all have a responsibility as audience members to be putting our money where our mouth is, to really be investing in the content that we want to see, so that Erin knows that that's where
Yeah,
that's
I mean, I was going to say intentionality matters so much. And I would say even more like, especially being like on the inside. Part of it is being able to advocate for people. And I think part of that being able to advocate for people, it really comes down to seeing where audiences are, but also just like, for me, at least, what I feel like is my responsibility is being able to consume as much that is out there and be able to see who is making things. And so I think if you're someone who wants to get things made, sometimes it's great to make stuff, like make a short, try your best, put something on social media. Like, people can't find you unless there is already something that exists. And so having things that exist help tremendously. And then, being able to advocate and being intentional.
I'm going to pile on to this and say, just because I've been inside at studios up until recently for many years, let's keep doing what we're doing and make it cool to be all those things. And because I have been in countless, if not like really thousands of meetings where like I'm in meetings with people that are executives or older generations on their phones going like, have you seen what this kid did? He got 5 million likes. How do we recreate that for us? Right? So if we really, how do we recreate that for us? And it's funny to me because it's like, we actually are the creators that the studios are watching.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah.
That's very true.
Yeah. And I would say also doing exactly what we're doing right here. We need to talk. We need to talk to each other. We need to tell each other how much we're getting paid. We need to tell each other what jobs are available, who's hiring, what our experiences were like working with certain people. We need to communicate and talk to each other. So doing what we're doing right now.
I don't find in my years in this industry, women get together to support women.
Yeah.
I remember when Spielberg, Coppola, Lucas, they were buddies. They came in and Spielberg did Jaws and it was shit. Excuse me.
Yeah.
And George Lucas came in and helped him with it.
Yep. Yeah.
He couldn't get arrested, and Lucas said, you're going to storyboard every frame of Indiana Jones because you waste too much time and too much money. So somebody who knew producing, which is what George truly does best, took somebody who knows directing, what Spielberg really does best, and they got together with Francis Ford Coppola, and they changed ideas. Those soirees, those coming together, I think is incredibly important. I'm very proud of the fact that on the new Quantum Leap, we had the first South Korean Asian man #1 ever in the history of Hollywood.
Yes.
30 years ago, on the original show, I couldn't get a woman director on my show. Mm-hmm. I had to fight really hard. I was trying to direct on the show, and every time it was my turn to direct, because I was head writer, a script came in, it wasn't right, I had to go make sure that it was right, And I said, but you're going to hire Debbie Allen. So she came and directed 2 shows. And so the 4 women, I mean, the 2 women that directed 9 of those 99 episodes, they were Black.
Yes.
But it's a fight. But still, we have to fight for each other
Yeah. Absolutely.
at the table to bring people's conversation and to get creatives to come together. But it's that friendship that's going to bring stories to you. And it's up to you, the audience, write to us. Find us. That's what Instagram is so great
Speaking
about.
of, can you share your handles, everyone? Because I would love people to connect with each and every one of you.
Right now, my new graphic novel, Warrior One, if you go to warrioroneworld.com and it says contact, come straight to me. That's really the easiest one right now. Follow. The book's not out yet. Coming out soon.
Awesome.
And it's an incredible world of our future. And I'm really looking for the audience to help me design it virtually so we can make it in reality.
Snap to that. All right, and Rachel?
I'm at The Tiny Chef Show, and then if my personal one is Rachel K. Larsen. You can see pictures of my dog on that one.
We also want that content as well.
All of my socials are at Erin Jones-Wesley. My name's up there. There's no hyphen.
Awesome.
Same, my name at Ashley Gianni. And then you could get to my films from there, my production company from there, everything else.
Awesome.
I guess I'll be the complicated one. It's Jennie Creates Co. And Jennie is spelled I-E. As you can see up there.
I know. Ladies, we're so sadly out of time. I mean, this flew by. I just want to thank you all for being here. Thank you all for coming.
Thank you all.
Have an amazing rest of your con. I'm Danielle Beckmann. Have a great day.